Weirding Way Media.
Darn tootin'.
It's like that little, I don't know if you guys remember that show Picket Fences with Tom Skerritt, but it had that, was it Picket Fences? Which was the one that was produced by Sam Raimi?
American Gothic.
It was American Gothic. That little Southern boy, that's how my cousin Jeremy talked when he was real little.
That's like the kid from that Fast and the Furious movie there.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those.
Talking about the third one, right?
Tokyo Drift Boy, yes.
Isn't he also the kid?
I call him Caleb just because of the voice, but I don't think his name is neither Caleb nor his character. But with that voice, he should be named Caleb.
Isn't he the kid from the X-Files movie that goes into the thing and finds, right? Okay. Yeah. In the suburbs.
I like that kid. Lucas something.
Lucas Haas? Not Lucas Haas. Lucas Haas is a different
Lucas Black.
Lucas Black. Yeah. But he's not Corey Feldman, Father Malone.
No.
If only everyone was.
If only everyone was Brother Theodore.
Oh my God. What a terrifying world we live in.
Terrifying and exhilarating.
I didn't, because again, I knew nothing about this movie. This movie was a pick of mine because it's a Tom Hanks movie that I had never seen. But Corey Feldman being in this movie makes my life, because Corey Feldman is a uniquely interesting human being on almost all accounts. Yeah.
I loved him in this movie. I actually think a lot of times people I think forget what a great, talented, kid actor he was. He was really charismatic. I think Corey Haim was still the better actor, because anybody who's seen Silver Bullet knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Two people here in this podcast have.
Hell yeah. I really enjoyed Corey Feldman. It's weird. It's kind of made me sad though, being like, oh man, here's that sweet little stoner teenage boy, and now he's dressed like Michael Jackson.
He goes for it. That's what I've heard.
He goes for it. He's going for it.
Was this the last good Corey Feldman appearance?
I like I like the versions of the Turtle Donatello's voice that he does, even if it's diminishing returns.
That was the same time though, right? If not before this?
That's a few years after, because this is 87.
That was like 90s and then 93, because he didn't do the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the voice of Donatello in the first and the third one. So
I've only seen the second one.
I just know him from that Friday the 13th movie where he's Tommy Jarvis.
Oh yeah, well, two of them. That was part 4, and then he shows up in part 5 very briefly at the beginning.
But he's not someone that I go out of my way to watch his things, because again, I don't know. I'm not a child of the 80s.
The last, I'm going to say that the last good thing he was in was, if it came after The Burbs, I would say the last good thing he was in was License to Drive, but that actually came out the year before The Burbs. So I'm going to hereby say that this is the last good Corey Feldman thing. Everything else is garbage.
I thought you were going to say License to Kill.
Hey, I'm Corey and I'm James Bond. All right.
I can tell you, kill with Grieco. That's more the level of Feldman.
Oh, you know what? It's definitely not is Rock and Roll High School Forever.
See, that came after The Burbs.
Yeah,
Father Malone. I feel bad that you didn't mention Bordello of Blood.
I said this is his last good thing.
You missed a golden opportunity to plug our project that has been finished now for almost 2 years.
Oh man, I got to get better at that.
That's the only good thing, but that movie sucks. You can hear us talking about it. God,
I didn't even want to mention it. Bordello of Blood, everybody.
Shameless self-promotion, Jesus. And God, we've been talking now for 4.5 minutes, and I haven't even done an intro for the show that you're listening to right now, the Culture Cast, that of which I am still the host of. I'm joined by my two good friends, all the way from Mondo, Heather, and Diabolique and all sorts of other things. You can find Heather over on her Patreon, Heather Drain.
Well, hello. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
And from a dark destination, from a public domain, he's saying, good night, Mr. Walters. Your friend and mine, Father Malone.
I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is our pal. Come on, it had to be said.
Oh, I like you saying it better than the actor in the Burbs, but
Yeah.
we'll get to
Ducommon? We'll get to him.
Oof.
Oh, and if you clicked on this episode and you're listening right now, you know what we're going to be talking about. We're kicking off February, which is all about Tom Hanks, folks. You know, the actor who was in such films as Forrest Gump, which we'll be talking about later this month, but that's not what we're talking about right now. In a lot of ways, thank God. We're going to be talking about 1989's Joe Dante directed The Burbs.
Morning, Walter.
Tom Hanks has brand new neighbors.
Neighbors from hell.
They're not Ozzie and Harriet.
Your neighbors are murdering people.
They're not the Cleavers.
Got somebody tied up in the old cellar, have you, Ruth?
They're the Klopeks.
These Klopeks are strange.
And they're living in... This is Walter. The Burbs. Tom Hanks.
I think we are overreacting.
The Burbs. Rated PG. Now playing at theaters everywhere.
So the film stars Tom Hanks, Bruce Dern, Carrie Fisher, and a whole lot of other people. We've mentioned Rick Ducommon yet. No, we haven't, but we mentioned Corey Feldman a lot, and it's almost like he's the star of this movie, but he's not. And the film is all about Tom Hanks playing a yuppie asshole who likes to bother his neighbors. His neighbors turn out to be killers, but in a version of this movie that I wish existed, I wish it was the suburbanites who were the assholes. Father Malone, you were chomping at the bit to talk about this movie, as I know Heather was, but I'm going to give Heather the floor first. Heather, tell me all about this movie. What's your thoughts on The Burbs? Because you wanted to be here on this episode, just like Father Malone did.
Well, first of all, I would probably talk about almost any movie you guys would invite me to, because I adore you both. And even if it was Forrest Gump, I would do it with a strong warning, making sure like I try to be like a positive force in this world, but you got to sometimes keeping it real goes wrong. And that would be what would happen if I talked about Forrest Gump. But no, I remember I was a little kid when The Burbs came out. I remember seeing the trailer for it and being really excited because it looked weird. It looked zany. I mean, Tom Hanks is very likable, and it's weird for people probably to realize this, but this is the era where people are used to seeing him in like, Bachelor Party and, Bosom Buddies and stuff like that. And so, this wasn't, Oscar bait Tom Hanks was still very, very long, a few years away. But it looked fun. And I remember my mother renting it and just being really disappointed. So when you mentioned that you were doing this episode, I'm like, I've never revisited this movie since then. And, I was a little kid. Yeah, I should see it through like adult eyes. And so here we are. And I'm glad it did. There are some things I really, really enjoyed about it and appreciate it. There are some things that I definitely have some problems with. Two of which have already been mentioned. But we'll get to that. But no, I'm glad. It's Joe Dante. Who doesn't love Joe Dante? The cast, other than one particular actor, is amazing. It's not often you get to see Brother Theodore sitting next to Tom Hanks, future, Oscar juggernaut Tom Hanks sitting next to one of the most iconic underground art, cult actor figures ever. Brother Theodore was in a porn parody of Jaws called Gums. The man who plays the Captain Quint adjacent in Gums is in a Tom Hanks movie. I want everybody just to soak up that glorious fact. Isn't that beautiful?
I don't want to.
I do. Brother Theodore is not fucking anybody. Okay, it's a non-sex role, as they say in the adult industry. But still, the fact that Brother Theodore is playing Captain Quint in a movie about a killer mermaid who castrates men orally, called Gums. It's called Gum.
Wow.
Holy shit! You know what? It's easy to get.
Be thinking about now. Jesus.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Pleasant dreams. Like it's so easy to get sad about the state of the world, but guys, we live in a world where the man that played, as I said, the Captain Quint adjacent in Gums, is in The Burbs with Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher and Bruce Dern. Like, there's so many great actors in this, and Corey Feldman, and just it's so cool. Wendy Shaw. So I love that. The film has some issues. But you could do far worse as far as 80s comedies go. I will say that.
Father Malone, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on The Burbs.
I saw this movie in the theater.
You say that a lot.
I know.
Which I appreciate, though, because again, like it's a perspective that is hard to come by.
Red alert.
Beep, beep, beep. Torpedoes inbound.
It's a ghost of Brother Theodore.
This movie came out in February of, I think, 1989. So I was 15, and I happened to be in Orlando, Florida. My mother and I took a vacation to get away from the cold of Massachusetts, and I spent my week in a darkened movie theater. Because the theater that was close to the hotel were spending the week showing all of these cult films, like a different one every day. So I got to see Pink Floyd's The Wall, and I got to see Heavy Metal, the animated film.
Oh, man.
And, yeah, it was kind of incredible. They had Rocky Horror there too, and then on the regular screen during the day was The Burbs. And by that age, I already knew and loved Joe Dante. He kind of could do no wrong. Certainly after Gremlins, I just thought he was the greatest. And then he followed that up with Explorers, which I just thought was even better in a way. And so I was very, very excited for this movie that was going to be skewering suburban life. And, I sort of grew up in a suburb. I think most Americans did in some way or another. And the thought of him doing sort of a dark version, and that's what was definitely advertised, and it is in the movie, kind of is. So I loved the movie, 90% of it, and then it got to the ending, and even then I thought, like, well, that feels off. That feels like it wasn't the ending we were supposed to get. And then later on, of course, I read as a kid, oh, there was a darker ending, and then they made him change it. Like, okay, that makes sense now. And we'll talk about that part of it later. But I remember being disappointed about the fact that it didn't feel like an actual earned ending. But that hasn't stopped me from watching the movie as is over the years. Not a ton, but certainly enough. I really like the movie. I think the good outweighs the bad in it. And I love any Joe Dante movie. Joe Dante, more than most filmmakers, creates a world, a cinematic world that's kind of uniquely his. Like, the rules of a Joe Dante world are the same in each of his films, but wildly not possible in the real world. He can go very cartoony at times, and we totally accept it. And that's something I admire no matter what movie he made. They always feel like they're from him. So anyway, I don't know. That's my experience with The Burbs. I really like it, honestly.
So, I mean, for me with Joe Dante, Father Malone, I believe you and I at one point talked about Matinee. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We did.
Joe Dante film. It was a couple years ago at this point. And, that was, up until that point, one of a small handful of Joe Dante movies I'd seen. I have seen Gremlins 2, I have seen Gremlins 1, and I have seen Small Soldiers. And that's it. Gremlins 2 probably still stands out for me as my favorite thing Joe Dante has done. But, I mean, it exists almost separate from its own franchise. It's barely Gremlins. It's barely a sequel to Gremlins. It's almost just Gremlins again. And I think that obviously people love the first one, people love the second one, and there's not a lot of overlap. It feels like people don't like the second one if they like the first one, or vice versa. Whatever, fine. Joe Dante also directed some episodes of Police Squad, which we've been talking about on our little Police Squad limited series. And I mention all this because Father Malone, I think you put it the best. Anytime he does something, it feels like Joe Dante is doing it. And that often has I think you might agree, cartoon adjacent feel or heightened reality in a cartoony direction. At least Police Squad he did. And I think Gremlins 2 and even Small Soldiers, I think, really lean on that.
Even Gremlins, even Piranha, even everything he's doing, there'll be some sort of bizarre moment where reality no longer exists for a few moments, and we just go with it. And He can do it without explaining it. And I don't know how he pulls that off, but God bless him that he did.
Right. And I haven't seen the Looney Tunes movie that came out in 2003. I'm sure Oh, okay. I'm sure it's good. Right. Because that's the perfect person to direct that kind of movie. So all of that aside, I enjoyed this movie, but boy, the ending falls flat on its face. It's so hard, it almost makes you not want to watch the movie. I think to your
You've
point,
already watched it. They've got your money.
Right.
Get out.
Exactly. And that is kind of the way I would have felt if I had seen it in theaters, was like, oh man, what a bummer. But like you said, 90% of the way there is better than 90% of the movies out there. Most movies don't even get 50% of it. Most of them get I don't even know. Again, like it's gonna differ for the person on how successful we find movies to be. But few movies are as successful as this one. But this movie is in a small group of movies that are good up until the ending, and then the ending is just so bad. You have to make this movie is great, but statement when you talk about it, because this is a prime example of that. But again, to your point, Father Malone, let us not focus on the ending, because everything else is just so damn good for the most part.
But we do need to talk about the ending.
Well, for sure. But I do want to mention, we have talked about a Tom Hanks movie before, the three of us, from 2 years before this one. A little film featuring A City of Crime.
Wait. Has it been 2 years?
It's been a year.
I think
this movie came out 2 years before.
We recorded it more recently, but yeah.
This movie came out 2 years after, or that movie came out 2 years before this one. So like you said,
way better.
The expectation is like, this is a Tom Hanks of the funny variety, which is not my expectation as an audience member anymore. For what Tom Hanks is putting out now. I think do whatever you need to make a living, but man, like you're kind of like the guy who does the Oscar things now.
Yeah. It's interesting though to compare it to Dragnet, because I will say The Burbs is is a much more successful effort, I think, as a whole than Dragnet. For me it was, because I think The Burbs it does have a really breezy pace to it. Like it flows really fast. And kind of to your point, Chris, how most movies don't even make it to the 50%. In our line of work, there's sometimes even films you like that, sometimes you'll be like, hey, how much longer do I have left of it? That's a human thing to do. I'm not, because we all have lives, we love film, but sometimes you have to be like, okay, I got to do this or that. With The Burbs, I did very little of that, I have to say. With Dragnet, I don't know. It's apples and oranges, maybe. But I will say my biggest problem with The Burbs, other than the ending, which I think we're all unanimous on that, is because like in Dragnet, his sidekick is Dan Aykroyd, who is, and we gushed about him in the episode. Aykroyd's perfect in Dragnet. He is one of the best things in the Dragnet film. I think even if you hate the movie, Aykroyd's fire in it. And I love Dan Aykroyd anyways. Aykroyd is like a big performer with a lot of charisma, who can kind of play a character sometimes that isn't even that likable, but he's Aykroyd. Like Neighbors.
What you're getting with Dan Aykroyd is what it feels like.
The actor playing Art and The Burbs, who is sort of the sidekick to Tom Hanks. I'm curious, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but mainly just you guys, because most people, you have to earn respect. Come on, but you guys have, so I hope I don't offend either one of you. I could not with the Art. Like the character is supposed to be like this odious, nosy kind of doofus, and they keep calling him fat. And the actor playing him is not fat. He has a tiny paunch, but he's not fat. It's not like he's Falstaff. Okay, he's always eating. What is it with 80s comedies? I'm sorry, not to go on make this side here, where there's always like, if you see somebody who's over like 150 pounds in a Hollywood film, they are quote unquote fat, and they're always eating. They're obsessed with food. It's just weird. It's not funny. It's offensive, but the most offensive thing about it, it's not fucking funny.
No, it's never funny. Yeah, I'll give you a back up your thing with an example. In the film Meatballs, Fink, who's the fat kid, while they're playing basketball, has a candy bar in his hand that he finishes, throws away, and then reaches into his trunks and pulls out another candy bar and keeps eating. Like he's so fat, he can't stop eating even in the middle of a basketball game. Like that was a prevalent thought in Hollywood that they kept giving to us about fat people. Yeah. They're just uncontrolled, nightmares.
Which is super cool as someone who's fat. I feel good. Thank you for making me feel good.
Thank you for giving all the bullies even more ammunition.
That's the thing. That's exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. It's super cool. I love it. I love when a fat character in a movie is fat and loves to eat. There's nothing funnier. I literally laughed every time he eats something in this movie. Or fatty fall down, go boom. Like when he gets electrocuted.
Knock you out of the way to get to the food. What
a funny joke.
There's only, in my opinion, one instance in film history, to my knowledge, I can think of where somebody who is a larger person eating is kind of funny. And that's in Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD, where this character is scared of a monster, this giant demon monster, but he's still eating a long shot.
I thought you were going to say Mr. Creosote.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
That's more gross. I think I love that for being gross, but it doesn't make me like chuckle really. I'm just like, wow, that's nasty. But I don't know.
Father Malone, I like that was our point of reference.
And I go for a Sergeant Kabuki.
I have trodden in Monsieur's bucket. which I mean, God. I mean, the Mr. Creosote thing is funny, but then following Eric Idle for 10 minutes is the troll job of troll jobs.
The original ending of the movie in it.
Was that the original ending of the movie?
Yes, they were going to leave it there. Like that would have been quite a fuck you in the manner on the order of Holy Grail.
Right. Fuck you. This is my house. It's like I would have liked if the movie had stopped there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I'm curious what you guys think of this character of Art, because I mean, Tom Hanks is nosy, and then we have this other neighbor that's Bruce Dern, which I love Bruce Dern. It hit me like, God, why has it been so long since I've watched a movie with Bruce Dern recently? Because Bruce Dern's great. Like, I loved him in this, but I didn't mind him and Hank. Like, everybody's nosy, and I have a theory that we'll get to later. I kind of almost feel like I wonder if Star Trier was an influence on this, because this is very like Hell is Other People. This movie, like, it's almost like No Exit. I feel like I read something where Joe Dante compared it to Lifeboat, in the movie from the 40s, which is basically an iteration of No Exit. So because the nosy neighbors, honestly, is one of my fears. I've had nosy neighbors in the past. Our neighbors now are lovely, thank God. But it's just like I hate people being up each other's own asses, and whether it's the suburbs or small towns. Privacy must be respected. That's a basic human right. And so the idea of our protagonists being these nosy Nancy's going to a ridiculous level of breaking and entering. But the film plays with it. The film knows what it's doing. It's Joe Dante, who's great. But, Hanks is fine. Dern is great. Rick Ducommon, is that his name? He had big 1980s stand-up guy energy. Was he a stand-up comedian?
Oh, yeah. A big stand-up.
Oh, my God. I couldn't.
What gave it away?
I couldn't with this guy. Maybe he's a nice man. I don't want to be that bitch. But
he was on Star Search.
Yeah, he was.
So was Bobby Brown.
Actually, he's also in Die Hard. He's the guy in the manhole. Comes up is like, I can shut it off right here. I got the thing. I just get on the phone with the guy. Like Joel Silver, I think, really liked him, so he kept putting him in Joel Silver productions. Thought he was really funny, yeah. But to your point, Heather, here's the thing. That kind of character can be very unappealing, and it's easy to see Ducommon in that role. But I find him, not the actor, I think he's doing his job. That character, Bruce Dern's character, the Walter character, the Corey Feldman, every character on that street, to me, is the antagonist of the piece.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The hero is being tempted by these people through the entire movie to be like them. And the Klopeks are a non-entity. Like, that, to me, was the movie. And it is 90% that movie. And he gets involved and he fucking falls and, becomes part of the mob. Just like it was destined to be, it would seem. So, yeah, I do find that character unsettling, because I find all of the characters unsettling. I don't want to be around any of them. The only person I want to be around is Carrie Fisher, who's the only sort of sane voice of reason here. And this character immediately should have just gone to the lake with his wife and gotten away from these lunatics. Because anyway, I'm just repeating myself. They're the villains. So yeah, it's easy to not like that character, because you shouldn't like him. You shouldn't like Bruce Dern. I mean, Bruce Dern's effortlessly fucking charming, so of course we like him. If he was one of the Klopeks, like, murderous handyman, we would have liked him. But yeah, that's where I came from watching this film.
Yeah, no, and maybe, yeah, and see, I need to maybe see more things with Rick Ducommon, because I don't want to be unfair to the actor, because you're right, it's his performance. He was too good, maybe, at being that character. Yeah, because it was like, oh my God, I couldn't. And,
a bit oppressive.
Oh, and the whole thing, oh no, it's my wife. Hook. I don't know. It's just like, I can't.
I mean, I'm with you on that.
It's one of the things I hate the most about stand-up comedy in general. And the 80s was probably one of the worst eras of like any. And I mean, there were female comics that did the same shit. Like, guys, am I right? Scratching their balls, drinking the beers, and then it's like, women, am I right? I don't know. It's just, I'm not saying that's what he did. I haven't heard of stand-up comedy. I'm just saying a general.
He had his share.
I would rather set myself on fire while having an enema at the same time than have to hear any of that shit. I can't. It's not funny. I mean, and occasionally it can be funny because I mean, like Sam Kinnison's whole bit about why Jesus was never married. That shit's funny, but that's the thing. You kind of have to be funny for me to deal with it. It's a little more creative than just like girls like to go shopping and wear lipstick. Ugh, I don't know. I can't. But Bruce Dern and his little army camo unders digging through the trash. Like what? That was wonderful.
Yeah. The trash thing, we get the cameos. We mentioned the cast sort of briefly at the top, but let's get a little more in depth there with those two garbage men played by Rick Picardo and Dick Miller. Now, they're both named garbage men, but you can rest assured that Dick Miller's character is actually named Walter Paisley. Dick Miller has played Walter Paisley about 7,000 times, mostly at the behest of Joe Dante, who puts him in all of his movies. They're a welcome relief in this film when they show up.
I love these garbage men so much. I actually put in my original notes that my number one favorite garbage man is the song by the Cramps, but right underneath it is totally Robert Picardo and Dick Miller. And I just, Picardo with his little applique rainbow on his work shirt was so cute, and his little glasses. And it sounds like he was almost talking about going to something like Est or so, I don't know, like some new agey like workshop. And Dick Miller's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, he's so great. Everybody loves Dick Miller because he's lovable. And you're right. Like, but then like Art starts going through the trash. Like maybe, I don't want to be unfair to Rick Ducommon. I just, that the character of Art was a lot. He was a lot. It was too much. It's
the
really
Ducommon cast coming soon. Jesus.
Well, actually, I do love Spaceballs. Well, that's the thing. I probably have seen him in something and liked him. So that's what I'm saying. You guys.
I mean, he's a pretty small. He's about as small a part in Spaceballs as he is in Die.
Who is he in Spaceballs?
He's one of the guards when they go to Planet Spaceball.
Is he like combing the desert, or is it
no? It's when they're trying to. It's when they're doing the whole Death Star adjacent thing. Where they go to.
Is he one of the assholes? I love that part.
I'm sorry, sir. He's my cousin.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
I mean, Spaceballs is great. Die Hard is great. I think to your point, Father Malone, and like I am 100% in your camp. I find these set of characters to be so abrasively awful, but it's an intentional thing. It's like, if you lived around these people, you'd want to fucking move immediately. Like, no one in their right mind would get bogged down in these fucking morons' idiotic pursuit where they just happen to be right. Because the movie that this should have been is that they were not right and they all go to jail. And that's the moral of the story, morons, is don't do it. And that's not the moral of the story. That's not the moral of the movie. And that movie is a better movie. And it exists here 9/10 of the way. But because the ending isn't what it is, it makes everything else feel like it doesn't serve a purpose. It doesn't serve the narrative. Because these people are they're more disgusting than the Klopeks. Yeah, the Klopeks are murderers, but like those people wouldn't sell them the house. So I get why they did it. Like, I get why they believe they should do it. These people have no real actual, other than they're like losing their fucking minds because they're suburbanites. They have no reason to do any of the things that they're doing. And therefore, in my mind, their like motivation as characters is because they're fucking sociopaths. And they make the Klopeks look like the sane ones, even though they're the actual murderers. And there is the message of the movie, that the movie just zooms by because they wanted to have Henry Gibson try to stab Tom Hanks in the back of a fucking not a paddy wagon, but an ambulance.
Okay. Let's just address the ending. Okay?
Go for it. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the ending as is, Art and Ray, Tom Hanks and Rick Ducommon, are dig in the Klopeks basement looking for dead bodies. Instead, hit a gas line, blow up their house as the Klopeks are returning, having seen these shenanigans going on, have returned with the police, right? Mm-hmm. Tom Hanks is all busted up because of the explosion, gets in the ambulance. As they're driving away, Henry Gibson is in the ambulance with him, says, yeah, we are killers. Haha. Tries to kill him. They wrestle. There's a tussle. The thing crashes. They shoot out. It's a big little wacky action kind of thing. And then it's proven, like, they open the trunk of the car and it's filled with bones and they were murderers all along. And it's kind of this triumphant thing where, like, Rick Ducommon's given this, we're not going to take it anymore here in the suburbs. Yeah, we'll hunt you down. It's like this sort of like honoring this sort of awful behavior we've been watching for the past hour and a half. Okay, so that's the ending we got, and that's the ending. Even at the age of 15, I was like, that doesn't feel right. That it should have been that the Klopeks were completely innocent of anything, and they blew up their house, and now Tom Hanks is going to jail, right? That should have been the ending.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, then I read, there was a darker ending. They didn't want to go with it. It must be that. You guys have seen the original ending, right?
No.
About as bad as the actual ending.
Okay, so but the original scripted ending is Tom Hanks gets into the ambulance. It drives away. Klopek says, we can't have you, blah, 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 and then kills him. And everyone back at the crime scene has now been allayed of their fears of the Klopeks. We never find out what they were doing. We never find out what was in the basement. We never know if there are any bodies or anything. But now Ray is going to die of his wounds on the way to the hospital. And it's all going to continue. So you initially were going to get this thing where everybody's guilty. And then they cast Tom Hanks and the studio said, you can't kill Tom Hanks. So they wrote, I guess, like 4 or 5 different endings, each one basically variations on the one we got, where at one point they open the trunk of the car and there are like dead cheerleaders in it. And then they open the trunk of the car and the garbage men are dead. And and then they
that's the biggest affront of them all.
But basically, the problem is the script. What worked about the script and what would have made it a good movie is we never get to find out what the Klopeks were up to. And now, because we have to have the lead live, you have to give a reason what they were up to, and nothing was going to satisfy. So they were sort of damned once they moved away from the original ending. Chris, my ending would have been none of these endings. Mine would have been the one that I thought of when I was sitting in the theater all those years ago, which is, and now he's going to jail and he's going to jail, and they should all be fucking ashamed of themselves because this sort of clannish behavior needs to go away. That's what I thought. It was all fun and gothic, groovy times for the length of the movie, but ultimately the monsters featured here. That Heather, that scene you mentioned where they're doing the zoom ins on everybody, like that scene is supposed to show like what a freak Courtney Gaines is, but if you watch it, Dante very wisely shoots from behind Courtney Gaines for most of the time. He's surrounded. The townsfolk, the neighborhood people are like zombies, just like staring, like, from every single direction. Like, yeah. So, Chris, that's how I would have ended the movie with fucking Ray happily going to jail, knowing that he got seduced by these horrible fucking people. And he wants to make amends for these poor Klopeks who just wanted to live their lives. Or maybe they didn't. I don't know. In any event, they didn't deserve what they were getting from these assholes.
And I'm with you. Like that is the ending that the movie deserves. The ending that the movie deserves is the villains, the people, the suburbanites go to jail for breaking the law countless times, breaking and entering, literally going and like trespassing and digging people's backyards up, blowing their house up. Like, these people are a menace. And yeah, the Klopeks have to, like you said, because Tom Hanks survives, the Klopeks have to actually be bad guys. They actually have to be villains. They have to be murderers. They have to be whatever the hell they end up being. Because again, we just know that there are body parts in their trunk and they said that they killed those people. But who knows how many people they've killed? Who knows anything? And that should have been the way it was. That should have just been who knows. Ambiguity is sometimes better. And in this, fucking Fred Wynn over here, like in Pet Cemetery. But ambiguity is better sometimes. It really is. Like in this case, it should have been the better of the two options. But no, it's got to be a happy, feel-good ending. And it just undermines the entire movie. completely.
Yeah. No, that ending, that to me was the ultimate negative thing, as much as I kind of ranted about the 80s stand-up comedy energy.
As much as you personally hate Rick Ducommon.
I don't know. No, I'm sure he's fine though. I will say the funniest person in Die Hard is Hart Bochner.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on. That's a hi, booby. Oh, my heart soars every time. Yeah, the ending, and especially because it would have been such a great subversive thing, especially in 80s Bush era America, which is kind of a very paranoid atmosphere already, and very, very pro status quo. Very, I'm glad things have changed. But no, they haven't. And as a tear slits down,
I was about to say, what are you talking about?
I'm being sarcastic, sadly. But it would have been such a great thing to have, to me, either have it ambiguous, or even better, have the Klopeks be innocent and just, all of you guys are monsters, and go to prison, have fun. These are the repercussions you get for your actions. They even joke about like wiretapping. That's fucked up. Going through the person's trash.
They dig up their yard at the end. They go into their basement with pickaxes and just start tearing
hammering the floor.
Oh my God, it escalates quickly, but this is why I enjoy 90% of the movie, because, I grew up in a small neighborhood. I'm sure you mentioned earlier, Heather, small town life, it's a terrifying notion.
Yeah.
We talked on the show Nice Junkies about my most hated artist, John Cougar. It's got that song about living in a small town, living in a small town. Oh my God. I heard that song. It's just a warning, all these people in your business and they've got nothing better to do with their lives than just, obsess on the new people and whether or not they have their lawn mowed. And oh my God, just get out of here.
Well, that Jeff Daniels moved to town, and he's a big city doctor, and we don't trust his type. And I'll tell you what, if that spider done bite somebody, he is not going to be the one to take care of them. It's I'm sick of this shit, because those are the people that are the problem. And the fact that we're following them in this movie is a problem, that they're not the bad guys. Because I live in a fucking suburb right now on a street that's way too narrow. Father Malone, you've seen it. You've been here. There's no fucking privacy here. My neighbors can see into my front parlor of my house, otherwise known as the sitting or the living. But for fuck's sake, there is no universe where if this movie were made today, the people that are going into this person's house aren't the bad guys, aren't the villains at the end. This movie, if it's told now, is told from the perspective of the Klopeks being harassed by these complete psychotic fucks. That's the movie you make now, right? And there's a lot of directions you could go, because this movie could be remade today. And there's other things that have been made, like that Shia LaBeouf movie, which is, there's all kinds of these, my neighbors are up to something and I don't know what it is movie. This just happens to be the Tom Hanks version. You
know what the original title of this film was? The original script? Bay Window, like you have in suburban homes. So it was like a rear window.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And Dante said, he got the script and they were excited to do it, and he was excited for a whole other reason, because the script as it was lionizing these horrible people for figuring out the horrible Klopeks are there. And Joe Dante was like, no, I don't think it's going to be a Rear Window thing at all. And the first thing he did was change the name. Sorry, I cut you off, Heather.
Oh, no, you're fine. No, first of all, yes, the ranting about John Cougar Mellencamp was glorious, and I heard that song the other day in a grocery store, and it made me it made my
it's
skin
a perfect
crawl.
Place to hear it. It's the only place anybody's listening to it.
Yeah, sadly I was not at a Piggly Wiggly. That would have made it
you had a wag a bag.
I wag
wag a bag.
But getting some pork rinds at the wag a bag. But
you never saw a box of Kaboom cereal until I went into a Piggly Wiggly, and I was like, Jesus Christ, everyone's serious down here. Is this an 8-liter soda? What is this?
You guys drink Faygo by the gallon here?
Woot woot. Sorry for our Juggalo listeners there.
For all you ICP fans out there.
Yeah. And I think that's why the whole Search Career thing kept kind of popping in my head too, because the whole just line of hell is other people. Because living in that kind of scenario is hell. That is a human hell. right there. Because it's like, think about your home is your sanctuary. That is like, everybody's, like you got the day jobs or you got relatives stressing you out, whatever. Your home is supposed to be like the safety zone. And when you have neighbors like that, there is no safety zone because their nose is fully up your business. I will say one thing, there is a lot of good writing in this script. And, the point that, like they're all focused on Walter being the grumpy old man and he lets his dog poo in other neighbors' yards. And, like Bruce Dern's character is obsessed with how much better Walter's yard is than his. And they quickly have that tonal shift because as soon as they hyper focus on the Klopex and Walter disappears, they're like, oh, that poor old man. Like, and it's like, and, there's little bits like that I think, we're clearly, the film knows that these people are terrible. But the problem is because it sounds like, especially because of the studio interference, they don't want to pull that trigger on Tom Hanks. Bruce Dern is charismatic and unlikable. Like his character's unlikable, but he's Bruce Dern. So you can kind of roll with him. Plus he has this big, like, that character has a subscription to Soldier of Fortune magazine. I honestly kept hoping there'd be a twist that you find out he never actually did any time in the war. Because I feel like in real life, guys that have actually seen a lot of action and women, anybody who served in the military have seen actual like war, been in the actual war with violence and death and all that, don't talk about it. They don't like to glorify it. A lot of times you might not even know they even saw anything. The people that tend to be like, oh yeah, I'm a veteran, I did this, you find out like, yeah, they were a veteran, like they were stuck in an office in Europe. They didn't see any action. This is a gross generalization, but I find it's often true.
I like it though. Throw the blanket over him and light him on fire.
It's it kind of makes me like it's a tiny character, but in the movie Tapeheads, which is a really great 80s comedy with John Cusack and Tim Robbins, there's a security guard character that there's a shot of him reading Soldier of Fortune magazine on the toilet. And that's what I think of, that type. Like it's some guy that's like a wannabe veteran, a wannabe cop or somebody, but they can't even get to that far. So they're going to wear camo all the time and read Soldier of Fortune magazine. And I guess in this day and age, probably have like a Second Amendment t-shirt and like these colors don't bleed or run, or I don't know, some shit like that. Some like real Jocko Homo kind of like patriotic Sturm and Drang, kind of thing.
I knew plenty of Vietnam veterans who were actually just like the Bruce Dern character.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. My hometown.
Is it a Vietnam thing?
What?
Like, I'm wondering, like, if this is a uniquely Vietnam veteran.
I don't know. It's just that I certainly recognized his character when he came on screen.
Oh,
like,
wow. Okay.
There were enough guys who, like, in my neighborhood even, who you would see them doing something kind of cuckoo and everyone would be like, just be cool because,
Are you saying they're like Strawberry from Up in Smoke? Like the...
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Just like that.
Now, see, I would rather watch Up in Smoke than the Burbs again. I love Up in Smoke though.
Well, we talked about a great movie. This is a really good movie with a bad ending.
Yeah.
It's really good in this movie. And it's kind of common now, but it was amazing when I saw it in '89, which is the opening. Opening uses the Universal logo and makes it part of the movie, where the Universal fades away, and then we get to zoom in Earth and then zoom in down to. It's a fucking great shot. And I love Joe Dante. I'm about to heap a lot of praise on this movie because not only is that so fucking innovative at the beginning, the score for this movie by Jerry Goldsmith, who is a fucking giant in cinema music. He wrote the score for Patton, for God's sake. He created that, the theme that we now most associate Star Trek with, way more than the original series thing because of Next Generation. That was Jerry Goldsmith. And the score for this movie, to me, is his best score. I love this fucking score. It's amazing. I finally got it on vinyl a couple of years ago. Anyway.
That's awesome.
It's like this music.
I
loved it.
My Jerry Goldsmith is Jerry Goldsmith when he did The Mummy, which is like 4 years before he passes away. But that is just like, again, it's like it's. I have it on CD. It's stuck with me for years. I mean, he did Alien. He did a movie I just talked about. Like
have you heard his score for Legend? His original score for the Ridley Scott movie. It's fucking beautiful. It's fantasy and
Didn't we talk about that movie together?
we did because it's a good movie.
Oh man, I wish I would have been on that episode.
I wish you'd been on it with me because he did not like that.
I was about to say I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't going to say anything.
I love Legend. I mean, it's got that John Anderson song. Okay, anyways.
We're just gonna have to disagree to disagree.
That's okay. That's the beauty. That's the thing. This is the beauty of having three independently minded adults with a lot of heart and a lot of mocks coming together and talking about cool cinema. That is the beauty of this trio for the Culture Cast podcast.
The cordyceps have not taken over and made us one hive mind yet. You're correct.
Yeah.
The Burbs is good. We all loved it. Nothing was wrong.
The Klopax. You mentioned that shot earlier, Father Malone, where poor Courtney Gaines is just trying to check. He's just trying to get the paper.
Yeah.
He's being stared at, and he looks afraid. And it made me so sad for that character. I mean, granted, I'm somebody who's gonna totally rule for like the underdog anyways, especially if they are like the weirdos, quote unquote. But I really wanted them to persevere. Like having this whole like, it was so lame. And also, who keeps a bunch of remains that are literally down to the skeletal frame in their trunk?
The ending is the problem here.
Yeah.
It's just a bad ending. Even had they given us the ending that they shot and he originally intended, which is the more somber version of the version we got, it would make this movie a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you to watch it, maybe on YouTube or something. It's there. You'll see what I mean. And it also ended with Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher just sort of walking away from everybody, and it makes the Rick Ducommon character. By the way, he runs after Bruce Dern's character. Is like, hey, let's go bowling, let's go whatever. And like, shut up, we're gonna go. She and I need to go do some reconnaissance. And like, the couple goes off, and then he goes to find somebody else. There's no mention of his wife. That joke is not in the original ending. Where it's like, my wife, oh no, that kind of bullshit.
Oh,
not in it. He goes to Bruce Dern, like, let's hang out. They deny him. And then he runs over to Tom Hanks and like, hey, you want to hang out some more? And he's like, fuck you. We're out of this whole neighborhood. And then he just sort of like staggers away. And then the song we fade out on is the Won't You Be My Neighbor song from Mr. Rogers.
You know what would make that ending even better, though? If that character was then killed by a piece of like flying random space junk.
And that's a real twist ending right there. I just like the most Deus Ex meteorite ending where shit just gets crammed into the ground and he's just a pink mist. It's like, what the fuck was this movie? The end? Question mark.
This is why
appropriate in a Joe Dante film. That makes logical sense for that to happen in his world.
Also, I can't believe there are people that love Gremlins that don't love Gremlins 2, because I love them both.
Yeah, me too.
People, I've heard
people not love
because
them?
Gremlins 2 is so weird.
It's so awesome.
I know, but I mean, if you watch Gremlins 1 and then watch Gremlins 2, they're like night and day, right? Like, Gremlins is a horror movie. Gremlins 2 couldn't be construed as anything as maybe even a parody of the first movie.
Gremlins 2 is a cartoon that's making fun of the fact that it exists at all.
Right. Listen here, brother. Like the fucking Hulk Hogan thing, like it knows what it is. And
it's an unnecessary sequel, making fun of unnecessary sequels and
right.
And making an equal film. Like, it's equally good to the original movie, just on a whole different level.
Yeah. And I don't know where you guys come down on something like Small Soldiers. I don't know if that's something you guys.
Small Soldiers.
It's fucking great. It's better than it has any right to be. Like,
I agree.
Right? But again, like it's ostensibly a kids movie theoretically.
But it's a Joe Dante kids movie, so it's mean. It has teeth,
right? And a toy gets stuck in a drain and ground up, and that scene has stuck with me for a very long time. And then it has like fucking Ernest Borgnine and Bruce Dern in it, and Tommy Lee Jones. Like I don't know.
The voice cast is Spinal Tap are basically the heroes. Like, it's Harry Shearer, Michael Caine, and Christopher Guest, like, as the three like lead puppets, toys.
And then what? Like Jim Cummings and Frank Langella, right? Like, Jesus Christ!
It's absurd, and the effects are great. I think it's Phil Hartman's last movie. And I adore Phil Hartman, so I'm always happy to see him.
I'm with you.
I need to see this. I've never seen Small Soldiers.
Whoa,
so I need
really?
to. Yeah.
It's kind of a wild, weird kids movie. Like,
Yeah, I was like, when that came out, I was big into not watching kids' movies because, I was mature, right? I wasn't, but I don't know. I just, no, you guys have told me. I never realized that was Joe Dante. Shit, I would have checked that out a lot sooner. I think if I fully realized that. I think it just kind of went like, I remember it being a thing, and it just seemed like a kid's movie, just like a kid, and I don't mean like a cool kids movie, it just seemed like a kid's movie, so I never checked it out. But I'm now open to
it's worth a reappraisal. Like it's a good one. And I mean, like, even, I would be tempted to watch that Looney Tunes movie because, again, like that's the right person for the job, and it's got Brendan Fraser in it, and
Yeah, man, it's Joe Dante. Everything he does is worth watching. Everything he does is worth watching.
His Police Squad episodes are two of the better ones. So
yeah, that series, Erie, Indiana, that was fun.
Oh, I loved Erie, Indiana. Oh my God.
Hocus Pocus's own Omri Katz, which
That's
is like the only other thing he did. So,
when I saw Hocus Pocus, I was like, it's that kid from Erie, Indiana. I knew about Erie, Indiana long before I ever watched Hocus Pocus. But who else is in Hocus Pocus? Charles Rocket.
It's true.
100%.
He's good in that movie.
He's good in everything, dude. I love Charles Rocket. And
he's
also
still my favorite SNL cast member to get fired.
He's my favorite SNL cast member, period. But you guys probably knew that about me. So Charles Rocket for life. Also, actor Doug Jones is in it. And I love actor Doug Jones.
As opposed to sculptor Doug Jones?
No, it's a joke. My friend Margot and we love Doug Jones, and she seems to be like, "Oh my God, Heather, it's actor Doug Jones."
actor Doug Jones has been on this podcast. We did an interview with him a long time ago.
Are you shitting me?
Hellboy or something? Yeah,
that's
long
awesome.
ago, many moons ago.
Was he lovely? He seems lovely. I think he'd be really nice.
It was one of the two interviews that I regret not doing. That and the Jack Black interview were the two interviews that suck so fucking hard you shouldn't listen to them.
Oh man. Well, actor Doug Jones, if you hear this, come back. We'll talk to you about anything.
He's active on social media. He responds to people that post on his Facebook, which is not a common thing for someone who's, working in the industry as kind of prolific as he is.
Oh my God. No, I mean, when I saw Crimson Peak in the theater with my friend Margot, we kept being like, is the knife Doug Jones? We were like, anything. It's like they always had that joke about Lon Chaney Sr., don't step on it, it might be him, because he was like the master of the man with 1,000 faces. Actor Doug Jones is sort of like our modern day Lon Chaney in a way. Like, he's great. Oh, speaking of silent film actors, and that's a segue I love having, like, because I can bring you Gums, the porn parody of Jaws, as I'm the aforementioned.
Sure.
But can I just say how much I love Henry Gibson? I feel like he has this like physical quality that kind of reminds me of like some of our great silent film actors, like his face, his like subtle expressions. Like, there's something I just find so magnetic about Henry Gibson. Like, he's so good.
He's so fucking funny in Wedding Crashers. He may be the best part of that movie, where he plays the father who Vince Vaughn is like sitting at the table talking to, and he's like, you ever get a piece of ass, and he's just like sitting there like trying not to lose it. And he doesn't say a single word the entire time in that scene. Exactly to what you're talking. He just has a great like look to him.
Yes, and he's so good at Magnolia too. I mean, that's the thing. Like, he can do like serious and funny really well. Like, I think he's been cast a lot more in comedies and dramas. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
In the middle of a comedy, Blues Brothers, he's the most ridiculous of characters, which is the head of the Illinois Nazis. And he makes them really fucking scary, because Henry Gibson is really fucking scary deep down.
He's amazing. No wonder I love him. It's like...
But he was on Laugh-In. He was the voice of Wilbur.
Yes, and he's deeply unsettling. There's something in him that commands a presence. I don't know.
It's his eyes and his eyebrows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. He has a look to him that like I don't know, was he ever in anything that mined that, or was it always just like it's there?
I don't know. Now we got to reappraise Gibson.
Yes, we do.
I'd be curious, because I mean, he shows up in Gremlins too as the employee fired for smoking.
Well, I was going to ask you who do you think is more unsettling, him or Brother Theodore in The Burbs?
Ooh,
I think Brother Theodore with that goddamn haircut.
Yeah, Brother Theodore, but Brother Theodore is just sort of no. You know what? I think Henry Gibson, because Henry Gibson could also be the guy who, oh my God, they blew up my house. My my poor life, my poor family. Like, I believe that. Like, Brother Theodore was fuck you then, and he was fuck you now.
He was the voice of Gollum in Bakshi's Hobbit.
Oh my God, brother, so punk rock.
But had the ending been that they get into the ambulance, drive away, and he kills Tom Hanks, I would totally believe Andrew Gibson did it. And so yeah, he's more unsettling.
Oh, do you notice how his character, when he offers candy to the ladies, he says, oh, this is, I find this is more romantic for the ladies. Doesn't he say something like that? Like, he calls it romantic, like he's wooing, like he's gonna cuck Bruce Dern and Tom Hanks, which I would be down for. Let's just get dark. Whoa. Let's get dark. And they become like his satanic brides. Because that's the thing. This film has like satanic panic, little bits of that in which I appreciated. And there's also the dream, which doesn't Brother Theodore, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because we see him as this human sacrifice. He's about to do a human sacrifice on Tom Hanks, I should say. And doesn't he say before Tom Hanks wakes up, mind your own business? Or did I just project that? I may have projected that, because that's what I was thinking the whole movie was like, you guys just need to mind your own business.
I mean, that should have been the tagline for the movie.
Mind your own, but I like it.
Mind your own business.
Yeah. But all that's like sort of preface with Tom Hanks flipping channels before he goes to sleep, and every like channel, it's like if I ran a cable station and as a kid in the 80s, because it's like one channel showing Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, another channel showing some kind of like 70s sleazy looking, satanic panic, and we just lost Father Malone. Oh no.
Man, what is going on tonight?
It's cursed.
This is cursed.
This show is cursed. But it's not cursed. These prices.
Yeah. Come on down to Crazy Eddie's. We got crazy prices.
Did you notice in the Burbs, they're eating, at one point, Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher are eating Freakies cereal? It's this type of cereal called Freakies, which was like a legit cereal. Freakies.
Scare your taste buds.
Oh, as if we needed further proof that cocaine was a hell of a drug in the 1980s. Freaky cereal, ladies and gentlemen.
It's freaky.
You want to get freaky, Tiki?
That's right, Daddy. Oh, Father Malone is back, Daddy. He's here. Daddy! Hard times have over at last.
Well, we'll see.
We're talking about wrestling.
Oh, of course.
Chris is killing it with the voices.
When
tonight.
Left alone to our own devices, you know where we go. Hey, did you guys realize that Nick Cat plays a character in this movie whose name is Steve Kuntz?
Yes.
Kuntz. With a K.
They introduce him as Kuntz.
I mean, yeah, but we all know how to say it.
Nicky Cat.
Nicky Cat.
Dazed and confused greaser threat.
Oh, yeah.
Nicky Cat.
I believe the Butthole Surfers have a song called Cunts, but it's spelled like this kid's name. I think. Yeah. I could be wrong. Butthole Surfers are amazing.
They were. They got that documentary on the way.
Oh,
by Tom Stern, director of Freaked. So there you go. Hey, makes sense, right?
Oh God, I love Freaked.
I have some Butthole Surfers stories, but they're not for air.
they're not for public consumption, like the Butthole Surfers. Right. So I have to ask both of y'all, and I'll start with you, Father Malone. What is the Tom Hanks performance for you? Because this is Tom Hanks month, baby. And if it's not Forrest Gump, did you pick the right movie?
What are you saying? Like, what's the quintessential Tom Hanks performance?
For you personally? I mean, again, I'm sure, like critically, we could all probably come to the same list of 2 or 3, but for you personally, what's the Tom Hanks performance or movie that you come back to?
Comedically, it's The Burbs or it's Splash. He's really, really funny for me in Splash, but it's also like a really heartfelt performance. Dramatically, I like him a lot in. I'm not wild about this movie, but I like him a lot in Saving Private Ryan. Like his performance in that is really fucking solid for what it is. So those are my 2. I don't know if those 2 had a fight, then the Burbs would win, I guess. But
so this is it.
Yeah, probably for him, sort of like operating at his best, like what we like about him as a comedic actor. Like it's hard to top the Burbs, which is, he kind of plays the everyman, but the everyman who's exasperated by everything. That's what I like about Tom Hanks, and this role is that.
Well, and I mean, what's funny is like it's weird to have to mention Tom Hanks, comedic actor, because like
weird, I know. Like at the time, this was all he was. Like,
right. Yeah, like Tom Hanks, comedic actor. Like, what was the last comedy that he? And how long ago was it? Like a decade or more at this point? Because like it's
God.
What's that movie? That's a funny movie. That makes me laugh.
Was the Lady Killers? I'm not saying it's good.
Oh yeah, it was the lady.
But yeah,
I love the lady.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, so we are cursed.
Tonight is cursed. The curse continues. We have angered the internet gods, yeah.
Just.
Did you notice that on Ray's table, the breakfast cereal they have is Gremlin's breakfast cereal?
Oh, it is. But did you notice the other cereal when they're playing Jeopardy? It's Freakies.
Oh, I don't know Freakies. Is it a real thing?
I believe it was. I never had it as a kid, but because we were poor.
Jesus Christ, Heather.
What? I got better. I don't know. It's just...
I was like, oh, you said that because we were poor. Oh. I just thought you guys didn't buy breakfast cereal.
No. I mean, legit, like things like Count Chocula, which was the one I was obsessed with. That was like a rare treat. Like,
was it because you found the Count sexy?
I have a lot of issues, probably.
It's not a no.
Exactly. I think it's a yes, Chris.
Rod, do all the way. Heather, same question to you that I asked Father Malone. What is your quintessential, I guess, as Father Malone would put it, quintessential Tom Hanks performance?
Subspecies 2.
Oh, wait. He's not in that.
That's a hard question for me because I mean, obviously Tom Hanks is a very talented actor, but there's not. I've seen movies that I thought I enjoyed him in, but I don't think I even own a Tom Hanks movie, to be honest. Do I? No, I don't. And it's not that I'm anti. I don't think he's been in anything that I loved so much. If I had to pick one that I would want to own to revisit, it probably would be The Burbs, actually. Now that I'm thinking, as much as I kind of have been a little negative on it, I would give it I think, as you guys have attested, this is largely a good movie. I've seen things that were way more flawed, which I know kind of sounds like if somebody's like, hey, did you enjoy that sandwich? And you're like, it's fine. That's not like good praise. but no, it's good. And he's really good in it. To be honest, I haven't seen his older films, most of them, since I was a kid. Like, I remember really liking, even though it's sad, I remember really liking his performance in Turner and Hooch as a kid. I was a kid. Okay. What do you fucking want from me?
It's a good one.
I know how that movie ends now, folks.
Yeah, we were too poor for fucking freaky cereal, Father Malone. You want to read me on my choice?
Choice of Tom Hanks movie? Like your economic bracket has nothing to do with vehicles. They're readily available. You can rent them at any video store if you want. It wasn't that much. They're on TV. You could watch Bosom Buddies. That could be your favorite Tom Hanks thing. That was Made and Monsters, made for television movie. We'll be talking about that later this month.
I'm excited. I'm ready.
Wait. He was actually, you know what? You're right. And if I had to pick one Tom Hanks movie, and this is what made me think of when you just read me to Phil, Father Malone, is my favorite Tom Hanks movie is called Kiss My Ass.
Oh, you're gonna say kiss your grits.
Kiss my grits. No, I was trying to channel Whitney Houston. Did you ever see the clip where she yelled at Bobby Brown on her? R.I.P. Man, I don't know. That's. I mean, in all seriousness, when I want to revisit Turner and Hooch, no, and not because Father Malone just totally broke my heart and pissed on the ashes of it as a tear slides down my cheek.
I just can't. You know what? It can't be your favorite Tom Hanks performance.
It's not. I'm not saying it's my favorite. I'm saying I was trying to think of Hanks things I enjoyed as a kid, as a child. Okay. I didn't like Splash though, so go figure. You're
wrong.
You're
I like this
Sure.
energy. Keep this going. I want to see two people get into a verbal spar over Tom Hanks because that is somehow the best timeline to be in right now. The most wholesome of American actors, the most belligerent of fights.
Fuck you, motherfucker. He was the shit in Bachelor Party. Like,
I loved him in Castaway to the point I don't even remember the character's name.
and actually, Bachelor Party. If I had to revisit one as an adult, I would Bachelor Party be like a second to the Burbs. I remember liking Bachelor Party, and plus, yeah, and it's got a joke about donkeys.
Isn't that the movie with the donkey show?
Yeah, and Kitten Natividad's in it, who we just lost recently. I love Kitten. So, as far as dramatics, I don't want to watch any of it. That's a no. I'm sorry. I've seen Saving Private Ryan, and he's really good at it. Like, my problem's never Tom Hanks. I will say that. I just that type of Oscar bait drama isn't made for me. Those films don't need my love. They don't need my attention. They get plenty of it. And my focus is I always try to go down lesser loved path. That was a long ass answer. I'm sorry, Chris. The Burbs.
Yeah. How dare you explain on a show where people are listening?
Also, Corey Feldman saying pizza dude. It did crack me up in the Burbs. He'd be like, no, wait, the pizza dude's coming.
Pizza. So I'm gonna have to edit this part out because I can't give my answer now because I have to give my answer 4 times because everybody's gonna ask me. So I don't have a Tom Hanks movie because I similarly to you, Heather, I stay away from Tom Hanks for the most part. The kind of movies that he makes are just not something that is infinitely interesting to me. There are plenty of other actors doing much more interesting things who are still just as mainstream as Tom Hanks. I will not go and say he's a bad actor because that's not the point. It's just to your point, Heather. It's just we've gotten to the point now where it's like he played Sullenberger. He played Walt Disney. He played that guy who was on the boat who got taken hostage. He played that. And it's like he's just playing real people. Because, in this movie, in The Burbs, he's watching Mr. Rogers at one point, which is strangely prescient.
Super weird, yeah.
Yeah, it's super weird now. So,
Oh God, yeah.
right.
He's not just watching it. The character has been up all night and it's just playing, and he's so zombified that this horrible thing is playing. He doesn't have the wherewithal to turn the television off. That's how that's presented, and then he ends up playing that guy.
Yeah, and getting nominated for an Oscar for it, which is exactly what we're sitting here and kind of bemoaning is this direction that he goes. Because he did it as recently as last year, playing Colonel Tom Parker in that Elvis movie, where he is apparently the worst part. So
wow, it's bad. He's bad in it. It's not. He's miscast.
Which is a crazy thing to say because Tom Hanks is normally not the worst part of the movie. He's normally the reason the movie is even happening to begin with.
That Thing You Do. That's a good one. You see that one? That's a good one.
Watching that one later this month.
Oh, you should watch it. That's a fun movie.
I kind of like him in the Da Vinci Code. It kind of makes sense that he was the one playing Robert Lang.
Kind of makes sense that you liked it.
I'll take that as a
Why
compliment.
are you so mean
He's on a tear, folks.
Hey, he's smoking that hate weed again. I knew it.
It's been like a year since that happened.
Yeah, I know, but it came back. Where's
Let
the
the
Father
sativa
Malone?
flow through you.
Where's that Father Malone we just love that loves us? And
to be fair, the Da Vinci Code movie sucks. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying that it's good. I'm saying that he's the best part of it because he's endearing as that character in a way that the character's written in the book. Character in the fucking book is a dopey dick who is just completely out of his element, but manages to solve all of these riddles because he's so, quote, smart, unquote. Tom Hanks is not believably going to kick anybody's ass, which is the point of the Robert Langdon character. He does it all with his smarts and is kind of a dope. And I would say in a lot of ways, Tom Hanks plays a dope really well. Isn't that Forrest Gump? Isn't Forrest Gump a dope? Like,
yeah, a bit. A little bit.
That's the
part of the character.
He's
Right.
different. He's differently abled, Chris. Yeah.
I don't mean it like that. Jesus.
Sorry.
fucking-
I'm sorry.
I
It's
deserve
Father
that one,
Malone's
though.
fault. It's Father Malone's fault. His hate weed is rubbing off.
But that's the role he'll be known for, right? That's the role that they'll show in memoriam is him sitting on that bench as Forrest Gump, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. Last shot of the movie, all Tom Hanks. That feather floating away.
I mean, I'm in the minority of people that don't care about that movie because I know that movie is a important movie and a movie people like. So
It's fine.
I mean, some people love having syphilis. I mean, everybody's different, Chris.
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Here come the blanket statements again.
I'm sorry. I'm so salty tonight. My apologies.
I love it. I love this energy that we're bringing here. We're not only taking pot shots at one another, we're taking pot shots at the audience.
What?
What?
What? What did you
repeat yourself?
Miserable, smug, and pretentious is what I said.
Oh my god!
Fair, yeah.
Oh wait, we all got to do our Three Stooges. Like Chris, you'll be miserable, I'll be smug, and Malone's pretentious. And like,
I don't know. I think one of us each has to be one forever. It's not interchangeable, right?
Oh, well, it can be whatever we want.
I don't know. I want to know which of the three of us is each of those.
I'm miserable. I'm smug. I'm pretentious.
Am I smug? I
don't think any of us are any of those things. So I don't think any of us are
Malone,
smug.
what's funny is I would say the same thing to you. I think you're the smug one. I think I'm the miserable one.
Oh, I mean, does that mean I'm pretentious?
Are you? Oh man, we all have to be all three at once because we can't. We couldn't sort this shit out if we tried.
No, I feel I'm all three. All.
Yeah, but that's the point. I mean, we just talked about how Forrest Gump is a fucking waste of time. We're miserable, smug, and pretentious.
People, you know what?
It's fine. Honestly, miserable, smug, and pretentious would be fun only because it would allow us to just be shitheads more so than we are now.
How can I be any more than I am?
Oh God!
How could I make this worse?
I mean, so do you guys think if Forrest Gump was an appetizer at a establishment like, say, a Margaritaville or a Chili's
or a Bubba Gump's?
That's too obvious. That's too obvious.
But there's only one movie that is a restaurant named after it that has existed longer than like a year, and it's fucking Bubba Gump's, to the point where we could go there now.
I'm going for a deeper cut here. So like an Applebee. What appetizer? I think Forrest Gump is for the people that go for the coconut shrimp.
That's not an obvious Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I would say more like deep fried pickles.
That movie is shrimp.
I would say Forrest Gump is like deep fried pickles.
I could see that. Or maybe it's like Rotel dip, but when Rotel's cold and it gets that gross skin on top of it,
Gross?
it's like that dip skin. Ew, gross.
Is that disgusting? Just be like, that's not gross.
Dip up, dude.
Are you hating on deep fried pickles?
No, I'm not. I'm saying a lot of people like deep fried pickles, and a lot of people like Forrest Gump.
Equate it to something else, motherfucker.
Whoa.
Okay, pretzel bites.
Oh man, those are good too. What are you talking about?
I wouldn't order them as an appetizer for $8.
No.
Of fucking pretzel bites.
Okay, what about brisket?
Ah man, brisket is delicious. Why?
I'm glad. I don't know. Oh yeah, what's Forrest Gump as an appetizer at a restaurant then? This is better than this is gold, right? This is literal. This is gold.
All the things you're saying as appetizers are like, what? Does it have to be like a Bennigan's? Like,
okay, best answer: Southwestern egg rolls. Nobody actually orders those, right?
Bang! Oh, you nailed that, man.
That was beautiful.
Does anybody actually order Southwestern egg rolls?
I did once.
Once. Oh,
a shame. Pox upon you.
I mean,
the idea of putting black beans inside of an egg, like a spring roll wrapper, and then deep frying it is unpleasant. Like
but
corn.
It might be
oh God, I can't. The corn. Oh, the corn. It's awful.
And then it has a Southwestern mayonnaise.
Do you not like corn just in general, or like not?
I mean, I like corn products. Like, I mean, tortilla chips are good.
Yeah.
Are you talking about like
maize?
corn? You're talking about like the corn. Yeah,
maize.
Maize.
Our people call it maize.
I love. Oh my God. God bless Jan Hooks. I love her. Corn niblets and God, it just like curses me out saying it.
Say that word out loud. The word niblets should not be uttered in polite company. I just want to put this out there.
If I believed in like traditional hell, it would have, instead of like a fire, it'd be like a cream corn.
You mean Garambosia?
See, David Lynch knew what was up. He's like, this shit's evil. And it's like, yes, it is. Yes, it is, good. David Lynch.
That is not good for anyone.
And you know what's in the middle of it? A Southwestern egg roll.
That's the appetizer of choice for Weirding Way Media, a Southwestern egg roll.
Oh, with corn niblets.
There is nothing worse than a Southwestern egg roll.
Oh, that's so gross.
I can't believe how far off of a tangent we're on, but I kind of like it.
I think, that's what makes it special. We're not some dry cut and paste academic horse shit. This ain't it cool news?
I went and saw an Indian cinema movie in theaters 2 weeks ago.
Dude, I'm jealous. That's awesome.
It was probably at your local multiplex.
What was it?
Pathan.
I should see if it's in my local. I might actually go to the theater.
It's got Shah Rukh Khan in it, where he plays a himbo daddy.
Oh,
big time himbo. Like
we need to get some Amir Khan up in this bitch.
I'm waiting for them to have Amir Khan in one of these. So it's like a spy connected universe, and it's like he's the newest addition to it. But he looks like a straight up, just like he's like got like a 8-pack, and he's got long hair and a ponytail, and he's
my god,
he's like in his like, he looks, if I look that good when I'm 60, I'll be lucky, because he's like in his late 50s, early 60s, and he looks like he's fucking 25.
God damn. And why isn't he in the new Magic Mike, huh?
Sorry about that. Things are going awry.
It was the corn niblets.
It was the goddamn niblets.
Damn.
Cursed.
Now we're gonna have to eat some Southwestern egg rolls the next time we get together.
No. Fuck that.
Contest.
The Tom Hanks special, as they would call it.
I smell a contest.
Hey, the cool thing about those, they look the same going in as they do coming out.
Oh, boy.
God.
Oh, Heather.
I'm sorry.
It's a good one. It's an oldie but a goodie.
I think now I'm an 80s stand-up comedian. I got a couple of fart jokes if you
give us your best dice man while you're at it.
I was wondering why you were standing in front of a brick wall.
Hey, diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, cunt. Andrew Dice Clay, everybody.
Okay, that was actually funnier.
I mean, isn't that his entire thing? Is just like,
well, you didn't do I will say I like him a lot as an actor. I like him better as an actor than a comedian.
The Dice Man?
Yeah. Have you ever seen Brain Smasher: A Love Story? It's this Albert Pien movie. He's really good in it, legit.
Which is a sentence that is started very infrequently. An Albert Pien movie that's good.
I love Albert Pien. He was a very nice man. But you know who else is in Brain Smasher: A Love Story?
Charles Rocket?
You bet. Yes.
Andrew Dice Clay is really good. There was Scorsese had this one season show Vinyl. And Dice Man is in it, and he's fucking great as this powerful radio magnate named Buck Rogers. And he's like, it's a great fucking performance.
He's a good actor. Dude's a good actor, legit.
I just like that his name is the Dice Man.
Yo.
Hey, Dice Man.
I feel like I'm conflating him with Fonzie though.
I mean,
hey. And now he's the Dice Man.
It's Iceman. Not to be confused with the Iceman.
To quote Schwarzenegger, the Dice Man cometh.
Oh.
That would have been the name of his upcoming special.
Chris, you remember the Frankie's Tiki Room here?
I sure
in Las
do.
Vegas? I was once at Frankie's Tiki Room at a table with Andrew Dice Clay and Tom Green. It was very unusual.
How are you alive?
I wasn't drinking that heavily.
How you just didn't die from having to be around those two.
It was very unusual. They were very nice, actually. That's what I took away. They seemed like both genuine, sweet human beings. my late wife was a big fan of Tom Green's, and I asked him if he would come over and say hi, and he was like, "Fuck yeah, of course," and like made a beeline over, and made her feel very, very nice. So, props.
Oh my God,
yeah,
that's awesome. And for the record, I love Tom Green.
Freddy Got Fingered is amazing.
Freddy Got Fingered's awesome. I loved his show on MTV. Yeah, no, he's legit. I sing the Bum song when I'm doing laundry. This is true.
He is the Chad. He is from Charlie's Angels. He's pretty good in Charlie's Angels too.
He's funny in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot he was in that. I was so focused on Crispin Glover.
Talk about a movie that's really good. Like way better than it has any right to be.
Chris, this is weird. I was driving home from work today and I was thinking about that movie for no good reason.
There's a lot of good reasons.
What I was thinking, actually, the song "What a Feeling," Irene Cara's song from Flashdance, came on the radio, and I thought, God, that was such a boneheaded, like on the nose thing for McGee to use that when they're welding in Charlie's Angels 2.
Oh, right.
And then I ended up thinking about Charlie's Angels 1 and thinking, God, Charlie's Angels 1 was actually pretty good.
Yeah, everything. I don't know. That's it's Sam Rockwell. I mean, how could you go wrong?
He's the villain.
I know.
It's great.
Yeah. And Crispin Glover's in it, like you mentioned, Heather. The weirdest part of that movie. By like a country mile.
So when they started making the movie we're talking about here, The Burbs, so they had that script and they knew that they had to change the ending, but there was a writer's strike in 1988 when they started filming the movie, and evidently there were only like 2 films being filmed at the same time. The only 2 films being made, because no one else had scripts ready, were The Burbs, and on the same lot, Fletch Lives was being filmed. And so according to Joe Dante, most of the dialogue in The Burbs is improvised by the actors who were figuring out the roles, trying to get to where they were going for the ending. And I think they thought by the time they got to the end, the writer's strike would be over and they would have a better ending. But anyway, that's a little more backstory on the making of this film. So, that actually, I want to bring up the relationship between Ray and Carol, I believe, Carrie Fisher's name in the movie is great. The chemistry for those 2 characters is sparkling. Like, I wish it had been more about them dealing with the crazy neighbors rather than Ray just sort of going off on the shenanigans. And the other thing that Tom Hanks brought this up in one of these interviews that I watched, and he said that he didn't know specifically what, but he figured that his character Ray had a secret that he was keeping from everybody. Like there was a reason other than he was just on vacation that he was trying to separate himself from his wife. And when he talked to Joe Dante told him that, yeah, he had been fired. He was keeping that from her. That would have been important to know as the audience, because it makes a lot of sense.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It almost frustrates me because it's like it's a good movie, but you hear that and it's like, man, there's all these little touches that really could have elevated. I mean, it's good, and good's better than bad. And
evidently they filmed the scene with his boss, played by Kevin McCarthy from.
No! Oh, yeah. I love Kevin McCarthy, the good Kevin McCarthy, for everybody listening.
Yes.
The only Kevin McCarthy, as far as I'm concerned. Oh man. Oh God, and this was like the same year he was in UHF.
Right.
Oh my God.
Which is, I mean.
Oh, I love UHF so much.
Yeah. I mean, UHF is an amazing movie, but to say he's one of the best parts of that movie is, yeah, he's so good in that movie.
He's in Joe Dante's segment of the Twilight Zone movie, the remake of It's a Good Life, the Bill Mummy thing.
Right.
Oh man. Little Anthony. God, so good. Man. Well, no, that's the thing. Carrie Fisher, who doesn't love Carrie Fisher? I actually kind of wish we could have gotten more of her in this too. Like she's very underutilized, which is a shame because man, she's great.
Yeah, she bounces off of him like hardcore. She's like, she's fucking funny, and like when they're squabbling and like, I don't know, it felt very lived in and very real to me. Like they made them a real couple that I wanted to care for, and they should have focused more on them.
100%. Less art, more Carol.
Yeah,
and more space junk.
Like really commit to the idea that the neighbors are the true villains in this movie. Like, instead of like, hinting at it.
Yeah.
So, Father Malone, final thoughts on The Burb?
I like it. I like all Joe Dante's movies. I like everything about Joe Dante. Joe Dante for president. And you know what? When he refers to movies, he calls them pictures, and I find that very endearing. Like, one of the best kind of things about working in pictures. Like, that just gets me. Anyway.
Say now see.
No, he doesn't say anything like that.
Working in the pictures.
No, nothing like that. He's a very spoken gentleman. Yeah, you should seek out some interviews with him. We should be interviewing him for this.
I just like the word picture. You're right. Pictures.
I want to, you know what? I want to live in Joe Dante's cinematic universe. Like his movies are very interconnected. Like Small Soldiers could be taking place in the block over from what's going on in this film, which could be a block over from the town in Gremlins. Like it all feels very of a piece, which is rare for a filmmaker. He's got a definite style, and I think it's on full display here. I think the ending is problematic on this film. Doesn't keep me from enjoying it. And evidently, like it's, when the movie came out, it did okay, but it got lambasted by the critics. But I think it found its audience. Like when I asked my girlfriend, like if she wanted to watch this with me, because I had to watch it for this podcast. She was like, God, no. And I said, oh, really? You don't like it? And she went, no, I've just seen it too many times. And I went, oh, okay. I guess there's a younger audience out there for this movie. But I say watch this movie. I say watch all of Joe Dante's movies. I love you, Joe Dante. There we go.
What about you, Heather?
That was beautiful. How do I follow that up? That was I love everybody should love Joe Dante. This is fact. This is legit fact. I really enjoyed The Burbs. I'm glad that you guys gave me this chance to revisit it, because I think I definitely, there are things I definitely enjoyed about it, and I would recommend it. But it's not like, it wouldn't be a fierce one just because of all the sort of aforementioned weaknesses we talked about. But I think, like, if you have an afternoon, watch it. Grab a snack, enjoy this little slice of Dante dark comedy, and contemplate the various endings. I think it does actually give you a good discussion and food for thought of kind of playing around, like, well, what could they have done? And that's not always. I think that's when a film negative can kind of turn into a positive, because a film fails if you aren't thinking about it. So if a film's giving you some kind of food for thought, even if it's one that's not maybe like the greatest thing technically, it's at least making you think. And so I think that's a positive. So go Joe Dante, and go Robert Ricardo and Dick Miller. I love both of them.
I mean, even Ron Howard's dad is in this movie, guys.
Yeah,
that's right.
Too.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with both of y'all. The Joe Dante things that I have seen, I really like. And I am a huge fan of Gremlins 2, to the point where in my house, I have a Gremlins 2 poster that I bought because I fucking love that movie. And it was a movie that I watched a lot growing up. So to do Joe Dante movies and talk about Joe Dante, I'm already there. And never having seen this, I was on board before I watched it, because again, Joe Dante. Like
Dante cast.
I mean, there's a pretty finite amount, so at least we know we wouldn't have to do a whole lot.
Well, it's much more than you think. Actually, when you pull all the television stuff in and the early,
Mr. Completionist here.
Well, if you're gonna do it, fucking do it.
Yeah, I agree.
And have you ever seen the movie Orgy? His first thing. We should watch the movie Orgy sometime. Let's Zoom call it. It's a 5-hour film. It's fucking incredible. You think Tribulation 99 is an assault? You've got no fucking idea.
It's 5 hours long.
5 hours of like cut together trailers and newsreels and pieces of film. It is exhausting and exhaustive and a fucking work of art.
I'm game.
Hell yeah.
5 hours. Hell yeah. Look, I mean, Joe Dante is one of those filmmakers who he has made, like you said, Father Malone. There are a fair amount of things, but he's not Scorsese with 30, 40 film credits. He has a respectable film list, but all the movies on that list are good. Like even The Burbs, a movie that has a problematic ending, not because it's, anything like that, but it's just not a great ending. 90% of the movie is still great. So you forgive it almost completely. That a lot of that is in Joe Dante's hands. And most of it is. So yeah, I'm game to watch any more Joe Dante, anything. And yeah, some of the things I grew up with, like Small Soldiers and Gremlins 2 randomly, are things that are seared in my memory. I remember watching Small Soldiers a lot as a kid and Gremlins 2 a lot And those influenced and have informed certain things that I like and decisions that I've made about things. So that has to be a good.
Have you seen Explorers?
Nope.
Oh, okay, you got to see that. Got to watch that.
I haven't seen The Howling either.
Oh, dude!
Come on, man, you haven't
Howling.
spent Dante's Surface.
I know
so much to this guy.
I know.
And then watch. It's not Joe Dante, but then watch The Howling 2.
Oh yeah, definitely watch that.
I fucking love The Howling 2 for real.
Which
people hate on that movie, but I love
it. Is the third one the marsupial one?
Yes.
Okay.
Third one.
Yeah.
Same director as Howling 2.
That's what I'm interested in, or
Yeah.
Australian werewolves. That's what I want.
Philippe Morat. Yeah.
It's something.
Yeah, and he also did an art house film with Dennis Hopper in the 70s. So fascinating dude.
But obviously this was supposed to be about Tom Hanks, and for Tom Hanks in this movie, he's pretty good. And I don't have a bone to pick with Tom Hanks at all with his career, the things that he does. It's just this month I wanted to watch Tom Hanks movies because he's not an actor I gravitate to. Someone my age grew up with Tom Hanks and doesn't even think about it a lot as fucking Sheriff Woody in Toy Story. Like it's not him as that role. Sheriff Woody is just Sheriff Woody to so many people my age. It's just that's the character, and it doesn't matter that it's Tom Hanks. He is embodied that role so much like Dan Aykroyd did in Drag. And that, Tom Hanks for me, that's kind of I have a hard time with Tom Hanks because, like we've said, so many of his things now are just not something that I care about. So this, on the other hand, was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I finally got around to watching it because I should have watched it a lot sooner. So on that note, we'll take a break and we'll play a preview for the next film of, I guess, Tom Hanks, You Airy. That's a terrible name.
From writer-director Tom Hanks.
Boys, we go.
Comes a story about life in a more simple time.
How long you been wearing such tight pants?
And the times that change our lives forever.
What about Guy there?
It's amazing.
Amazing.
None of this would have happened if you hadn't joined the band.
That thing you do.
You are nice boys. Except maybe for you.
Rated PG. Special sneak preview Saturday with Independence Day.
On the next episode of the Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about That Thing You Do, a movie with Tom Hanks in it.
It's a good one.
Never seen it.
It's a good movie. I put that movie on and it just makes me happy. It's one of those.
Well, that's high praise.
It might be the best thing he's ever done, honestly.
Wow. That's even higher praise.
Not because of his performance, like as a piece of film, I think it's the best thing that Tom Hanks is associated with.
He directed it too, right?
Yeah, he wrote and directed it.
Until then, Heather, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me over at my website, mondoheather.com, as well as as you mentioned earlier, my Patreon, which is Mondo Heather. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram under @MondoHeather. And I happen to be very, very, very lucky to be the co-hostess with two amazing gentlemen, one of whom is with us tonight, Father Malone, for the brand new Weirding Way Media podcast, Noise Junkies. And so if you delight in sonic goodies and interesting discourse about such, then please listen to Noise Junkies. And if you don't, we will haunt you and force you to eat a Southwest egg roll.
You don't want that.
With Chipotle aioli. But pronounced Chipotle because the people who are ordering it don't know how to say it, and the people who are getting the order received don't know how to say it either.
I will have the sheepotle.
Chipotle. I've heard that one.
The chipotle. But in all seriousness, definitely please check out. And also please check out both Chris and Father Malone's Patreons and their various. I'm very lucky to work with both of you. You guys have multiple podcasts and they're all fascinating. And you know what? Guys, don't settle for the sort of the guff of this world. There's so much boring media out there. Go for the Weirding Way Media.
On that note, Father Malone, what about you?
Well, geez, as Heather just said, Weirding Way Media is you can hear all the auditory stuff I'm involved in, including our show Noise Junkies, which is the best music podcast out there. And that's not hyperbole either. I think if you want to see any of my visual stuff, go to fathermalone.com. It's got a link to my my YouTube channel. I got stupid videos and animations and stuff there. But most of my shows are at Weirding Way Media. Astounding Tales of the Public Domain. That's something I do. It's sort of I don't know. It's like enhanced performances, I call them, of classic science fiction short stories. I'm just rambling. Weirding Way Media, everybody. That's my answer. Sorry about that.
I was going to let you ramble because it's just free advertisement, man.
Yeah, I know, but
from the voice of Weirding Way Media.
Oh, look out! I got the golden pipes. Golden pipes and golden tones.
Better.
Tones and hues.
Tones and hues.
Tones and hues. Weirding Way Media.
As for me, you can find me at weirdingwaymedia.com, where all the shows that I work on are, along with some other ones like 80s TV Ladies, which is hosted by friend of all animals, Richard Haddam's wife, and amazing writer of sci-fi films from the 90s, Susan Lambert, and her host, Sharon, where they talk about, what do you think, TV shows from the 80s featuring ladies. And you can also find another podcast called Goodnight, Mr. Walters, about Taxi, which Father Malone hosts with the other, the letterman himself, the other letterman, HP.
The other noise junkie, HP.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And as always, I would be remiss if we didn't plug the Projection Booth, Mike White's podcast that, puts all other movie podcasts to shame, folks. So those are all things you can find at weirdingwaymedia.com. As for this show, culturecast.com, patreon.com, if that's a thing you're into. If not, I totally get it. And yeah, as always, like, rate, and review on iTunes, because that is where this show should be found, and that is where you're probably getting it anyways. As for Heather and Father Malone, thank you guys so much for joining me. As always, it's been fun. It's been a laugh, a gas even.
Wow. I would say a hoot and a holler.
A hoot and a holler. And see, since it's been a while, we haven't done this in a while, but Father Malone, I'm going to kick it to you first. What is your porn parody title for The Burbs?
I knew you. About halfway through, I thought, are we going to do the porn parody thing? No, we probably won't. And then when we got to this point and you fucking signed off, I was like, okay, good. Because I still didn't think of anything. So go ahead, Heather.
Well,
It's a long way of saying fuck you.
No, it's a long way of saying this is not something I forgot. It's something I considered and blew off, and now it's come back to haunt me.
You want me to go?
Go for it.
Well, I have one for sure, which is, and it's obvious, the boobs. I'm sorry. I'm basically Beavis. I can't help it. The boobs. I was trying to also come up with a really lengthy one in my head because I thought it'd be funny if like the bust in it. I don't think it works, but then it still makes me laugh because it doesn't work.
All right, I got one.
Oh, what is it?
It's terrible though.
I want to hear it.
The Blumpkins.
Ew, no, I don't like it.
I warned you.
No,
That's awful.
That is repugnant. I have never been so offended in my life.
You know what you're getting though.
Here. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is this is one of the harder ones we've come across here on the show, especially when the three of us do this. So it was either between the butts with the Z, the butts. Yes. This would be like a 90s.
Very 90s.
Very
90s.
90s.
The butts.
Or the cums with a Z as well.
Oh, God.
I got really nothing. This was a hard one, and pun intended.
I don't know why that is so funny to me. The cubs.
The cums.
Ew.
Because it's just gross sounding. With a Z of all letters, like, what are you, verse?
Wait,
like,
I
yes.
actually think that sounds grosser than the Blumpkins, but I don't want to see either one of them.
Yeah. The idea that anyone is into that enough to name a film after it would be is just, it's icky is the word I would use.
Yeah, I don't want to see any of these movies.
No, you don't want to see the boobs.
The boobs. That's just the name of that's the film that they're going to make about the Three Stooges when they're talking about their lives. The boobs.
Oh,
Rated P13.
I thought it was going to be like a docudrama about Baywatch. But the joke is the biggest boob of all is us, the audience.
Oh.
Deep.
And on that note, we'll catch you on the next episode.